Godzilla, King of Monsters, is the third installment in a new cinematic universe centered around classic monsters such as King Kong and Ghidorah. It was visually impressive, with some fucking amazing action thrown in, but suffered from the problems that had plagued the 2015 Godzilla movie. The first hour of this film felt like I was watching a really bad action movie, complete with the terrible acting of your standard testosterone power trip and character interactions of a lesser Marvel film. So most of my points, people are going to respond with, "It's a Godzilla movie! I came to see monster fights!" And don't get me wrong, they definitely did give us a large amount of monster fights that were really the meat of the film, and the only thing I'd recommend seeing it for. If I were just to rate this movie on its action, it would be a 10 out of 10. However, since this movie is packaged with characters, story, and what is supposed to be drama, I am kind of forced to take that into consideration as well. Now, I'm going to go into spoilers, so I'm going to throw a timestamp on the screen so people can skip to the ending bit without hearing the juicy memes. The movie opens with a flashback in 2015 from a scientist whose family was torn apart during the original Godzilla movie. This guy, whose name I've already forgotten, lost his son and eventually his marriage as he coped with the loss. His ex-wife and daughter are fucking around in China when they use something called the Orca to calm the Titan Mothra. This Orca basically sends out waves similar to the ones the Titans use to communicate, and is capable of not only designating one the Alpha, but calming one down. So this Tom Cruise looking motherfucker who broke into Stark cabin tells one of the other cardboard boxes that he's only going to help find his daughter or something before being taken to a Monarch base where Godzilla shows up and dicks around in front of them. While this is happening, Jeremy Corbyn and Scientist Guy's wife dick around by a Titan ominously called Monster Zero, where they wake up the motherfucker shortly after Monarch finds them. Godzilla apparently goes to fuck up whatever came out of the Antarctica, that being the Hydra mofo King Ghidorah. So S.H.I.E.L.D. goes to Antarctica and fights the eco-terrorists led by Jeremy Corbyn, which we then learn that Scientist Guy's wife is actually a bad guy. So Bad Lady Scientist detonates the bomb and Scientist Guy goes after them but decides to go back because Military Black Lady and her unit get trapped by falling rocks. And he just gets there immediately instead of it taking a while, even though he was pretty far up the elevator anyway beforehand. And it took him like a good 10 seconds to get up or even catch up with his other family. But you know, he gets down like a split second. So, Black Military Lady and her unit get in the elevator with Scientist Guy, and they get on the surface where they all kind of run from a hole where this Hydra motherfucker is coming out of. Ghidorah's like, "Sup, bitches?" And the soldiers start shooting at him, even though they just saw how bullets do jack shit to these things. They don't fucking move when this is happening, of course, so Ghidorah just lightning breaths of the death and then eats one of the main cardboard boxes. When this movie isn't showing characters I don't care about, and just showing me monsters punching each other, I really enjoy it. The first monster battle occurs at this point, nearly an hour into the movie, and it's felt like watching molasses up until this point. Once the fight gets going, it speeds up with increasingly stupider actions taken by the supposedly smart people. Nobody thought that maybe watching the giant lizards throw hands was a bad idea, instead of just getting the fuck out of Dodge then watching them? Of course, while they're just gawking at the fuckers, a helicopter gets shot down, everyone's fine except for the main scientist dude, who is pinned and can't lift a piece of obvious plastic that's fallen on him. Chinese scientist lady comes up and fucking Hulk lifts the thing, so he's fine, and they GTFO. So the two giants fuck off, and the team gets back to the mothership, where they grieve over the loss of cardboard number 7, and then try to figure out what they're up against, where the Chinese chick tells edgy scientist dude they can't find much of Ghidorah because, and I'm not kidding here, people were too scared to write it down. And I'm like, bitch, that's not how writing things down works. So they go to Mexico, and the eco-terrorists are in a vault where they let out Rodan from a volcano, and Rodan fucks up the city, and then Godzilla and Ghidorah fight as S.H.I.E.L.D. gets like a handful of civilians out. So the military sends a super nuke and oxygen destroyer to kill them, but only ends up killing Godzilla. This sounds like it would cause like a vacuum effect or something to destabilize the environment, but who cares? The monsters are fighting! So the Japanese guy is mad that Godzilla's fucking dead. They realize that Ghidorah is an alien and Godzilla was the only thing keeping it from destroying the habitability of Earth for humans, so they devise a plan. They take the scientists, send them in a submarine to what is basically Atlantis, where they discover Godzilla was worshipped. And guess what? The fucking moth lives! Meanwhile, the eco-terrorists are falling out over who's gonna die because everyone's gonna die, and the scientist guy's daughter takes the Orca and goes to Boston's Fenway Park, where they do the megaphone equivalent of calling Ghidorah a bitch. Understandably, the giant three-headed lizard goes to Boston. While this is happening, the humans of the submarine send Japanese dude to kill himself with the nukes, because the sub's firing mechanism is broken, and the radioactivity is so high that he should be puking blood like in Chernobyl once he climbs the Mayan-style steps. So this actor was apparently in a number of the original Godzilla movies, which are presumably canon, as they are referenced in the 2015 Godzilla movie, and this being his final role to bring back the giant lizard was one of the few decisions I actually liked. And Godzilla was like the only character that I liked, so seeing him brought back was really cool. So Godzilla goes to Boston and throws hands at Ghidorah as Ghidorah is about to evaporate Scientist Guy's daughter, and they are soon joined by the greatest creature of all time, the fucking moth, boys! He's gonna eat your goddamn drapes! So this is the best part of the film because most of it is focused on the monsters fighting each other for no other reason than they want to be the best that no one ever was. During this, Rodan fights Mothra and I'm pissed because nobody fucks with my giant ass moth. So Godzilla gets kind of fucked up by Ghidorah, and Mothra decides to try to solo him after fighting Rodan where they fucking die! So at this point, I'm done because they killed the moth, and then Godzilla nearly gets his ass whooped, and so the lady evil scientist girl gets in a car after dropping off the kid and the guy scientist, and then proceeds to drive around with the orca going alpha gamer just long enough for Godzilla to get up and nuke Ghidorah. Afterwards, it looks like Godzilla and Ghidorah are dead, but it's just Godzilla burning the last of Ghidorah's head in pure anger. So, where do I start? This movie was dreadful for the first hour, and then became one of the most ridiculously fun and stupid flicks I've ever seen. The CGI used during the action is honestly amazing. It left me feeling thoroughly pleased once the film had ended. I came and saw some really visually creative and intense action, with what was essentially a 2v2 monster fight in Boston. Godzilla in this movie is kind of like a Captain Planet type of character. He's watching over the environment and mankind, and only comes out when they fuck it up. That angle felt a little weird considering this boy whooped people's asses before without caring. This film really excelled when it didn't have story or characters in it. That's a strange thing for me to say overall. If we had just gotten a movie that was essentially a mosh pit of giant monsters throwing hands, I really think I would have enjoyed it more. The problem with the cinematic universe is that we're not watching these films for the human characters. We're watching them for the monsters and crazy action they can make. And eventually you're just gonna run out of shit to blow up. The MCU could expand and keep going off interpersonal charisma because ultimately you were coming to see those movies to see more of your favorite characters. With this cinematic universe, the humans, the inherently relatable parts of the movie, were not only weak but not the selling point. I can't imagine this expanded universe working well without that personal connection, especially if you're going to keep devoting so much time to this interpersonal drama. I mean, it was just over half the runtime. All in all, I've been fighting over what score to give this movie, but for the time being, I think a 4 out of 10 is a fair score to give the movie as a whole. Something else I want to talk about was the response that fans of this movie had towards critics and negative reviews of the film. I, weirdly enough, believe that people can enjoy a movie without believing that it's the best thing ever. Everyone's pissed off because this movie rightfully is not like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. It's really not that good, but I can see why you would think that. It's definitely enjoyable. But most people just pay attention to the rating anyway, so yeah, rip this movie.